Liverpool's out-of-this-world performance against Manchester City. 2-0.
On their own red planet.
Now you're talking.
Some might say.
You see, in the same week, they comfortably beat Real Madrid and then they comfortably beat Manchester City. Now, I know Man City, of course, are not exactly pulling up trees at the moment, but still, Jim, it's impressive stuff from the Reds, who seem to have the best of the Klopp era mixed in with the sort of current form and vibe of Arne Slot, which is proving very effective.
Yeah, it's that fresh energy, isn't it, that a new manager brings, but it's just not wearing off. It's like a sort of permanent new manager bounce. And, you know, beating the reigning European champions and the reigning Premier League champions in the same week is quite the statement, isn't it?
It is.
We say on this show all the time, oh, it could have been a lot more goals, but we rarely say that about Manchester City in terms of them conceding them. But it really, really could. They didn't really look that different from a lot of teams that Liverpool have managed to swat aside this season.
It was scintillating stuff, and Anfield was very much in full voice, as Mr. Guardiola found out, but we'll come on to him in a short while. But this is such a blistering sort of start to Liverpool's season that has now gone into the sort of, we're into the kind of, would you say we're getting into the mid-season vibe? I mean, we are, aren't we? We're in December, for crying out loud. You know, at some point, the start of the season turns to the midweek, that means, Peter. I hate to pick you up for your German.
13 games in. So, we're coming into the middle third.
It doesn't look like it's slowing down. It looks like it's speeding up, which is quite a worry, because at the start of the season, we thought about Liverpool. Are they a bit fortunate, maybe? They've had some sort of kind of fixtures. They're sort of flattering to deceive a bit. We weren't sure the results were there, but the performances maybe not so. But now the performances and the results are plain to see. And in this game, Peter, with people coming in for injured others and so on, they are the best team in Europe right now. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I think. But is it hard to know where Liverpool are at? Like I say,
it isn't. It was maybe
Man
a number of
City are absolutely listless at the moment, and it's absolutely bizarre to watch. I go away for 7 days, and you know, you got your manager beating himself up on telly and all this stuff. It's all very, very strange. And they were dominant, but I think it might be a little bit Newcastle beating Arsenal.
Peter,
Man City were not at the race.
You have to stop.
What
is it about 18 wins in 20 games in all competitions and a 9-point lead and top of the Champions League? What is that about?
With a 100% record in the Champions League.
You're not convinced by them, no?
Yeah, I just think that everyone's getting very excited about Liverpool, but the teams that they are expected to beat, like Man City, are awful at the moment. Absolutely atrocious.
Liverpool knew that Man City were there for the taking. I said on Friday, I said a couple of times last week, could this be the, not perfect, but the match in which Man City go, right, okay, we've hit rock bottom. So that draw against Feyenoord when they were 3-0 up was, because they were dominant in that game. That was just ridiculous.
Sometimes you need a big challenge to raise standards, right?
Exactly, all that kind of stuff. A bit like when Liverpool beat Man City 1-0 through a Mo Salah goal. Would it have been 2 seasons ago? Forgive me if that's wrong. When they were struggling a little bit, weren't really getting going. And they play that game, and that gave them a little bit of a shot in the arm. And I thought maybe this might be it for Man City. Maybe they'll try and change it up a bit. I don't know.
I think they like the slight underdog-edness of where they've found themselves very, very occasionally. So I came into this match and I was like, I think Manchester City will re-advertise their dominance in the league. But then Virgil van Dijk hits that header and I'm like, they are absolutely cooked.
Well, I think that's it. I was expecting more. And I thought this was raised, but they seem to be a little bit scared of the situation. And I know when Anfield's like that, and
probably because their manager's got bruises from his own bloody hand.
Maybe.
So you look at the touchline and go, the manager's hit himself. Jeez,
it is.
No one needs to see that, do they?
It is the old looking at the air stewards and going, oh my goodness, they are. They've got their parachutes on.
How am I doing, boss? Oh, you're punching yourself in the face. I imagine I'm not doing that well.
We are struggling here. Were you surprised to see Stefan Ortega starting instead of Ederson?
I was, yeah. That was an interesting one, wasn't it? Because obviously Ederson made I suppose you could characterise it as a mistake against Feyenoord. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe he had a sort of slight injury or something like that. But it was a surprising call. He's a very good and very able deputy.
Yeah, it seems to be it was just a straight swap.
Kelleher versus Ortega. It's lovely to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It is a bit.
A subsman.
Although Kelleher, I mean, I think
He staked about as big a claim that could possibly be staked.
I've forgotten about Alisson, to be honest with you, which shows you how good Kelleher has been, because Alisson, I've forgotten about that guy who I still think he's the best goalkeeper in the world. He's definitely one of them. The fact is that he's made me forget about him.
Yeah.
Shows you. De Bruyne on the bench as well. Now, I know De Bruyne has not been playing that much this season, and there was talk of him maybe leaving to Saudi in the summer and all that, but we are in December now. The summer's distinctly quite far away.
It does feel like this is his spot this season, doesn't it? That he is going to be a substitute rather than someone who's playing himself back into the team.
Yeah, and
It's a Grealish and De Bruyne double substitution every week, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it does, which sounds amazing. But
you can even chuck in Doku there, who did okay.
I think he's coming back from injury, though, isn't he?
When you're a couple of goals down, it's not as juicy, is it, I suppose? But,
But the point is, what Pete's saying, is that they've got an awful lot of desirable options on the bench, and none of it really changed that much. I say Doku showed a little bit when he came on, but not really. But that is the situation they find themselves in. But with Liverpool, though, again, open the scoring after 12 minutes. Cody Gakpo ghosting in at the far post from a quite wonderful Mo Salah pass. Because if that... He's threaded that. Like, it was hard to. I had to see it a few times with various different angles to kind of go.
Has he shot there, or has he?
Yeah, and because it's Salah, I just think no. He's calculated what's the best thing I can do here, and he's. I mean, it was Xavi-esque.
Yeah, and Gakpo's been lethal lately, hasn't he? So I'm sure it was very, very deliberate. I'm really intrigued by Luis Diaz starting as a centre forward as well, because he started as a centre forward against Bayer Leverkusen and he scored a hat trick, and he could be a really, really interesting option there if Slot is trying to kind of regularly retool him for that, because he runs so directly and he's a really, really good finisher. Dare I say there could be a little bit of Luis Suarez about him? Has he got the skill set to kind of, play that role?
The unpredictability, maybe?
Yeah. Is it chomping at the bit?
It's just the way Suarez used to run at players.
I know what you mean.
And give defenders a real decision to make.
Well, Diaz, I mean, when he was at Porto, he scored a lot of goals. And when he came to Liverpool, again, he seemed to be, for a little while, the best player when the rest of Klopp's side were kind of going through a bit of a malaise. And he's very direct, very dynamic, has a keen eye for goal. Like even things like if you want to be a centre forward, like he's good in the air, for example. Like he's got all the tools. He really is.
Gets Gakpo in the team as well, who's obviously scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives you that option. Nunes is. I'd probably more of an option off the bench,
which is ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're full on wild card.
Indeed. So I'm intrigued by that option with Diaz, because he could well do it, and he is an option now. I mean, to start him against Manchester City shows you what Slot thinks. And when he won the penalty, of course, I mean, Margaret, he was just on that. He has the pace and the tenacity as well to get involved like that. The only surprising thing about this game, and certainly when we had a breather at half time, was that Liverpool at half time were only a goal up, and then they were only 2 up. I mean, it could have been more. Really, it was a 2-0 battering. Really,
yeah. I felt that if things were going to change, it was going to change in Man City's favour at half time, though. But they just came out of traps exactly the same.
But this is it.
We're kind of used to thinking that, aren't we?
It's been a strange month. I just think that maybe the clock will tick over to 2025, and and Man City will have to change, because I think Pep's just caught in that kind of like legacy, taking De Bruyne off and not playing him all that much. He's sort of thinking, well, I've got to move this team on before I move on. But
he's not really done.
No, but he's just not getting the performances and getting any kind of points on the table. So it's a real shame. And I think he does listen to how his team is regarded outside of Man City and outside of the Etihad, and I think he feels like he's just not given enough respect. So that's why his fists are doing the talking.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say that with those comments. I mean, I think that this performance removes any doubt about the situation at Manchester City for me.
It's more than a blip, isn't it?
This is not a blip. This is, the empire is falling kind of thing. Now, obviously, they are quite massive words.
I think they are massive words. I think something has to change there, and I think it'll change with Pep at the head, and I think they'll get there. I think they'll get back onto some kind of.
Do you
form.
just think they will play themselves?
I think they'll play
form?
back into form. They have to. I mean, they've been in. They're not been in similar situations, but Pep Guardiola. If anyone's going to get out of that arrest this slide, I mean, it's going to be Pep, isn't it? Really?
Is it though? I mean, he's not really. Again, this is the kind of thing in his career. He's in a very different situation to anything he's really had before. Just in terms of like the longevity.
Not off the top of my head, I can remember any time he's had to deal with this. But you know, every manager gets a dose eventually,
sure.
don't they?
I mean, I understand that Pep Guardiola. Look, let's not be silly. He's one of the greatest managers of all time. So if they have a bit of a blip, you know, he will get out of it.
No one thinks they're going to finish 10th or anything.
No, but I don't think this is a blip. And now, is this just a season? You know, has inertia finally set in? You know, is this? Yes, they've got injuries. Yes, they've got all that. But you can't just say, oh well, when he comes back and then that player and whatnot. This is different, and we know it's different. You can see it's different. It's plain to see. They've got enough in that side to make a better fist of it than what they have been doing. And as we mentioned, as the results started coming in, and this sort of 7-game winless run that they're on. We looked at, you know, people started thinking, well, hang on a minute here. Against Southampton when they won 1, it wasn't convincing. You know, I've bemoaned the fact that Fulham didn't really use their Man City voucher correctly and they lost 3-2. You know, there's certain games where you kind of go, it wasn't that good.
Wolves as well. I mean, even to some extent, the Arsenal game, I suppose. And you know, Rodri being out is a huge miss. Let's not be silly here. But it's you look at this and it you know, whatever's gone wrong, whatever could go wrong has gone wrong for them. And again, it reminds me a little bit of Liverpool under Klopp when they would almost have that rest season, if you like, where they were just exhausted. And then the following season, they tended to, not always, but they tended to, you know.
Up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And Guardiola, look, again, 4 Premier League titles in a row. He's won 6, as he reminded us. And he's been there a while. The fact is that this, due to all the things with the injuries and everything that have gone wrong, it's taken this long for this to happen. I find interesting. Joe Hart said on the BBC recently that when Guardiola signed that contract extension, he thought, right, everyone's going to knuckle down now, and they're going to crack on. That's not had the desired effect. And I look at Guardiola, and my thoughts are, he stayed too long at the fair. You should have taken the England job, you mug. but I think that maybe it got to the summer. And perhaps you don't know what goes through his head. He's thinking, do you know what? I've enjoyed it here. Okay, I'll stay a bit longer. I've still got more in the tank. Another Champions League victory, because people might say, well, you only won 1 Champions League. All these kind of things maybe go through his head. I look at him, he looks exhausted and he sounds it. And some of the things that have been coming out of his mouth, I think that doesn't sound like Guardiola. And I just wonder, actually, everyone goes, maybe we should have parted ways and stuff. It's easy to be wise after the event, of course. Sure. But that's what I'm looking at the moment.
Maybe they should give him a year off, give him another New York sabbatical, have someone step in to have a caretaker season or something like that. I think there's a bit of a perfect storm for City, isn't it? I think it is easy to gloss over the Rodri injury and say it's not just that, but that is a major part of it. Obviously, Kovacic not being available at the moment is a big problem as well. I mean, Bernardo Silva's playing in there and he's doing the best he can, but he's not an ideal player in that position, is he? Sometimes it's a strange combination. That so you've got.
But why is the defence so crap? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's problems all over the gaff.
But they're clearly very fatigued. I think. However much Guardiola might argue against it, the age profile of some of the players does appear to be an issue now. I think the charges hanging over them certainly can't help. There's no real way of knowing if that's having a tangible effect on them. But let's assume it's not a welcome, useful thing. It could well be.
There's that little asterisk.
Yeah, and also I think the way teams are approaching them has changed. Teams used to start as if they were already 1-0 down.
Yeah,
you know? And
but
now
they're coming out. They're coming out the traps
they feel like they can get a big
with
result.
such ferocity, and kind of they're just up for giving them a bit of a press. And that's what happened in the first couple of minutes at Anfield. They just absolutely went for it.
But all these things are happening at once, right? And that's a very unusual set of circumstances for any sort of top team to deal with. So I think Pete, I think you're right to a point. They will certainly they'll rediscover some form this season.
It's only 4 losses in the league. How many matches have they played? 13.
They're 11 points behind though, right?
Yeah.
And Liverpool don't look like slowing down, and even if they do slow down at some point, they've got such a cushion that that's probably going to be all right.
They're a victim of their own success.
Yeah,
this is how a normal Premier League team with that squad would probably suffer 4 losses in a year, and 3 of them away as well.
Well, again, the only comparison that really the modern era would be Klopp's Liverpool, as I've made the point already. But it's just the whole feeling around it. I mean, even like when Salah, was it just after he scored when he kind of seems to have a little chat with Haaland?
Yeah, that was
Haaland,
strange, wasn't it?
Again, goodness knows what was said. But Erling Haaland, when he's on it and he's playing a big rival, is a bit of a shithouse. We know this. He almost sort of looked a little bit amused. The way he leaned in, again, well, I know we've heard from body language experts recently, Jim, but I fancy a crack myself. he looked almost like subservient to Salah, if you know what I mean, or inferior somehow.
Yeah, right.
I know, and again, I'm reading way too much into that, I understand, but it just seems odd. In that match, if you've just gone down another goal, you know, whether he was sharing, I don't know. Maybe Haaland was like, "What are you saying now? Piss off, mate." That's all that it could have been. But his whole exterior seems to suggest that, oh yeah, we are. This is just not happening for us as well.
They just look punch drunk at the moment.
And the fact is, you know, we've
just punched.
Yeah, the crowd chanting you're getting sacked in the morning to Guardiola, and then Guardiola holds up 6 fingers. That is kind of you know, later stage Jose Mourinho stuff.
But
the fact that he's responding to
and
that.
also he was saying stuff like, you know, sort of intimating that because they'd had some good title races in the past, that Liverpool fans would have been a bit more respectful to him. And he said that, you know, I think, you know, in a kind of many a truth is said in jest kind of way. And it's like...
He's talking about his own legacy now. This is what I mean. It sounds like the guy who, again, has stayed too long at the fair. He's holding up even to the Man City fans. Look, remember, we've got 6 titles. And they're like, yeah...
But you're losing now.
And like, do you know what I mean? And he said, you know, all the stadiums want to sack me, which was quite interesting.
And it's a massive... you know, overthought of how deeply those fans are chanting you're getting sacked in the morning.
It is.
It's funny in the moment.
Do you remember all like football games? They would sort of you had like the normal. You'd always have like a cup competition. You'd have a league competition. You'd have like a singles kind of match you could play. But then there'd always be a section where it'd be like, you're 3-0 down in the 80th minute of the match. Do you not think this is just a little bit Pep Guardiola's little plan?
Oh, you think he's doing it on purpose?
I think he's throwing games, Jim. I think he's throwing games. Yeah,
right,
definitely.
There we go.
So it's more delicious that he wins at the end of the season. He wins the whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have this on record. So
Yeah.
should you be proved right,
Clip it.
It'll be
21 minutes into the record on Monday the 2nd of December.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
You forgot about the adverts at the start. It won't be 21 minutes in.
Well, if you can find the audio, that's what we'll be looking at, Marcus.
Oh, I see. Clever.
We've got a little library where we keep all of your transgressions.
All right. Well, it's been nice knowing you.
Compromat Donaldson's got them all on a floppy disk.
Oh dear, you're going to stitch Jim and I up like Tango and Kashua. Oh, there's a reference.
There's a reference. Wow.
And also, it hasn't been nice knowing you. It's been really confusing.
Yeah, and it will end as perhaps we thought it might.
All empires crumble.
They do. But perhaps the empire isn't quite done at Manchester City, because Pep did say, this is the only kind of positive thing I've heard him say for a while, where he said, call me delusional, but I have the feeling that from here we will start to build back to winning games and confidence. That's the only thing that I've heard him say. Whereas otherwise he's, we're vulnerable at the moment, we've had injuries with this, that and the other. So that's the only little thing. And for a man of his achievements, I'm not going to completely ignore that.
Yeah, can I ask you, Marcus, how, like, you seem sort of most alarmist about where this is going for City. Like, where do you see them finishing?
In the country
season?
or the three of us?
Just in the three of us. But because I do expect them to turn this around. Obviously, so of course.
But what do you mean by turn it round?
Well, of course they're going to start winning games again,
right?
It sounds to me like you think they might not even finish in the top 4 or something like that. I think they're obviously a shoo-in for that.
Yeah,
they're probably not going to win the league, but I'm sure they'll mount a challenge again.
Yeah.
What, this season? You think that they'll be fighting for the title?
I think there'll be a point where the gap will be smaller than this.
I think they'll finish second. Personally.
Yeah, but I mean, what you've just said there, Jim, is of course, but like, they're not going to finish. They're not going to be battling relegation. Obviously, my point is that the football that they've been playing over the years and this winning machine, they've been even when they didn't win the Champions League last season, we still refer to them as the best team in Europe.
Sure, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's the level you're talking about. They're not at that level, and I don't think they're going to get back to that level. That's my point. So even if they finish,
what I'm asking is how far do you expect this to fall from that?
Noticeably, as we've been seeing. So even if they do finish 4th or they finish even third or something. It's not the same. Again, look at Klopp's Liverpool. When they finished that season, I think they finish fourth. Alisson scores that header and so on. Klopp was like, "Oh, what a great achievement," and it was a good achievement. Yeah. But the fact is, we were used to them clocking up 90+ points. So when they do finish for every other team in the league a respectable position, it's not to the dizzying heights of what they've achieved, and therefore, they've had a fall from grace and all that kind of stuff. So that's I think that's what we're looking at here. Obviously, time will tell. But Liverpool, handsomely top of the league, they are showing no signs of tiring, no signs of letting up. By the law of averages, they may well have a blip this season. They may have a 2 or 3 game windless run. Do you know what I mean? Will that be enough, though, for another side to catch them? Which surely, Jim, has got to be Arsenal. And we're going to talk about them after this.
And that's a horrible kick there. The fact that he's looked up just after it is something, but that is a red with bells on it.
Pat Nevin talking about the Botafogo red card, which we are going to talk about at the end of the Ramble. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Jam Hands, for sending us that clip. He loves it, old Jam Hands. He does, doesn't he? You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent, all for just $5 a month. That's patreon.com/Football Ramble to sign up now. Gentlemen, West Ham United 2, Arsenal 5. What a mad first half. Yeah. All of the goals scored in that first half, equaling a Premier League record.
West Ham would have been like, we've got an entire half to get something here. And they didn't. They just didn't.
So often the way, though, isn't it? With loads of goals in the first half, there are none in the second.
Tired.
Well,
so predictable.
Because the team who were absolutely bossing West Ham basically thought, let's just consolidate this.
Absolutely. Let's not do anything silly.
Yeah. Yes. Three goals is a good cushion.
So when you say West Ham have had a whole half to do something, no, West Ham had a whole half to think, let's not let this get any worse.
Hey, Ings nearly had one in the second half, but he screwed it wide. I liked Wan-Bissaka's kind of finish where you thought he was going to hit it across the keeper and just slotted it home on the near post. That was a lovely move. But obviously, they got hammered.
Did you think when he scored that goal against Newcastle where he did put it across the keeper, he thought, I better not do that. He expected that.
He'll have that written on his bottle, won't he?
Developing a range of finishes. He was, what a hot streak for Wan-Bissaka, but that's not the story.
It does seem a strange place to dwell on.
Can we have that as the show title? Wan-Bissaka's hot streak.
Scores again. Bukayo Saka seems to be the place to really hone in on it during this game. Yeah. Excellent throughout. Got himself a couple of assists and, of course, a goal. The first goal was, of course, Gabriel from a corner. There was a little bit of controversy about this. What I liked about this, though, is that they know that teams are going to be watching planning against this, as Lopetegui said West Ham were doing. So instead of ducking in at the back post like he has done a number of times, he went front post and nodded in. But the goal wasn't without its controversy, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, Julian Lopetegui didn't think it should have stood. I've seen some comment in The Guardian saying it was Arsenal were perhaps lucky that it stood. I'm surprised by that, to be honest, because it's all about Timber giving a little shove to Paquetá, and I'm not sure it's particularly shovey. I'm not sure it's that bad.
No, I didn't think it was. I think it was the sort of thing you see in every Premier League and Championship and all the rest of the league boxes.
Yeah,
24/7.
Aside from that, though, I thought what was really impressive with Arsenal was that they were really ruthless in a way that they've not been earlier on in the season. Obviously, Martin Odegaard being present helps that a lot. They only had 7 shots on target. Obviously, they scored 5 goals from those.
That shows that they're quite ruthless, then, isn't it? They're literally putting away.
Indeed, yeah. And I think West Ham were as good as they were on Monday night. They were really, really sloppy in this game and kind of undid all the good work they'd done in that performance against Newcastle, where they were really, really good. And
for Trossard's goal, it was particularly damning for them as well.
And also, I thought the Havertz goal as well. Max Kilman, just gift wrapped that by slipping over it. I know that's an individual mistake, but they were really not at the races.
It was more of a
he slipped on a bubble.
Attempt. Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
I mean, they shouldn't be putting what is basically washing up liquid all over the pitch.
Well, it's the same for both teams.
It's the
isn't
same
it?
for both
So-
teams. That is true. Yeah, that's
I
true.
never thought about
Yeah,
that.
but maybe you could coat your legs in what would be the opposite? Acid, some kind of strong acid, I suppose.
if
Vinegar,
Lopetegui
vinegar
starts
feet.
telling them to
If you're going to
coat
go
their-
to the London Stadium, you got to wear vinegar feet. Yeah, done, sorted.
Yeah, I mean it's an opinion.
Good point.
I think that Arsenal very much enjoyed that first half. Not only obviously because they were very dominant, but clearly they were getting some stick from the West Ham fans because when Havertz scores, he immediately cups his hand to his ear. Oh, what about that? And even Saka did it when
Yeah.
he scored.
Oh, Saka's got a bit of that about
He
him.
does, but he really revelled in that when he put the penalty away.
Yeah.
I mean, but Jim, Arsenal are back at the races, are they not? The international break eventually came for them when they were struggling a little bit. Obviously, Martin Odegaard coming back into the side. But I mean, is it as simple as that? We talk. I mean, the first part of this podcast, I was saying, it can't just be the Rodri injury. Obviously, that's a big thing, but it can't just be. Whereas they are a different side with Odegaard. Does it? What is it that Arsenal are doing now? Because against Forest, routine win, Champions League, banged a load of goals, and here they are again. They look like.
Well, they just
Arsenal.
create space a lot more effectively with Martin Odegaard in the team. Basically, I think there is a point where it maybe the current evidence suggests it possibly is as simple as his inclusion. Obviously, he's not doesn't craft every single goal that Arsenal score, and the set piece factor is a big one as well. But I think they look fresh again. They look really, really again ruthless and focused. Whereas before they were perhaps trying not to lose games a bit more than they were trying to win them, even in games where they could easily have pressed the advantage, and we're seeing that a lot more, which is really interesting. And there's a strange quirk of the fixture list now, which means Arsenal only leave London once between now and the 25th of January, and that's an away trip to Brighton.
Blimey.
So there's very little travel for essentially 2 months now. So
It's a travel card, isn't it?
yeah,
travel card for everyone.
Yeah, so that's something they need to try and take advantage of, get as many points on the board as possible. Man United coming up next, which suddenly looks a very difficult game and like it might be a really, really good one. So yeah, it's a welcome return to form. 9 points behind Liverpool does seem a lot, but what else can you do but try and eat into it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. As I said before, Arsenal now need to be perfect, and they've had experience of that. Of course, trying to battle Man City for titles. I think that it is incredibly unfortunate for Arteta where Man City suddenly look vulnerable and are faltering and all that. Liverpool just take it over. And he must be thinking, bloody Nora.
Just done this once in either of the last two seasons. You pricks.
What is nearly man in Spanish? That's what
I mean, it's very, very unfortunate. So they have to be perfect, but the way they're playing is very, very encouraging, certainly.
Saka can just stay fit. He's so important.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. What a player he is. Lopetegui, however, can't keep the pressure off him. Now, we talked about that win at Newcastle, of course. We did a Ramble React. Well, the way Newcastle United are playing, they can't score goals. Perhaps maybe we could have a bit of a revisionist take on that. Now, look, West Ham played well and they were ultimately good value. And we spoke about them playing with a little bit more swagger in that last half an hour in that game. But they did have to weather a lot of the early storm. But I mean, it turns out the storm was more of a more of a gentle breeze and a sort of a light smattering of rain, perhaps, because Newcastle can't score at the moment.
After watching that West Ham Everton match, every time a West Ham player got the ball in this highlight package, I close my eyes because I don't want to see that team ever again for the things they did to me that day.
And
horrific.
yeah, and so any kind of credit that Lopetegui may have had in the bank from that win, you would say it's just gone because the manner of it and just there was nothing. I mean, that Trossard goal, as you say, Peter, West Ham was just so poor.
I don't think there are many West Ham supporters, of which I know quite a few, who would be really gutted to see a new manager by January. Personally,
it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because they want to kind of move on from the Moyes style and just essentially be more entertaining for their fans, as they have every right to want, but. And we talk all the time, don't we, about having patience with managers and sticking with managers, but it can still be the wrong man for the job, right? And it really feels like this is the case here.
It does. The right man for the job at Manchester United does seem to be Ruben Amorim, though. He got his first Premier League victory, a 4-0 one against Everton. Oddly, though, Everton were actually quite good in the first half.
Yeah.
This goes into what David Cartledge was saying on Friday's Ramble when Man United had beaten Bodo Glimt 3-2, is that it was chaotic and there was chances wasted. They didn't seem in control that much, etc., etc. And you could still apply that a little bit to Everton. It's very early days with Ruben Amorim, obviously. But Everton, fortunately for Man United, it was Everton because they can't really score too many goals at the moment.
They've not scored a goal in November at all. They've only had 16 shots on target.
Indeed.
If Wolves managed to put together a couple of results, I think Everton are in a lot of trouble, personally.
Yeah. But Everton, but this game did happen in December, though, Jim.
Sure.
You thought maybe they've got. Thank goodness they're out of November, but no, they couldn't get the ball in the back of the net.
It's an entirely bald month. Big old bald zero.
It is, and Man United. Okay, so they rode the luck a little bit in regards to some things. There's that chaotic nature still there, but what we did see was a better performance from them in an attacking sense and certain individuals.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to point that out. I think Amad Diallo, Joshua Zirkzee and, of course, Marcus Rashford already look different, don't they, under Amorim? They already look like they're playing with more purpose. Exactly, pressing harder. And this must have been such a sort of cathartic experience for the Man United fans in that stadium because they look really, really good. Obviously, as you say, Everton have their moments, but teams are always going to have their moments. And they were just like a pack of wolves every time Everton made a mistake or anything, even in the postcode of a mistake.
And Everton were
really
generous
on it. Yeah, they were.
They were generous, we must say. But Marcus Rashford, Amorim said of him last week that he has to want to improve. And he does.
Yeah.
Clearly, Rashford's got all the tools. But we were talking about this the other day, Jim, that there just seems to be a little bit of a, I don't know, sort of a dark cloud over him or something, whatever that may be. And
body language experts that we are, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is everyone not a body language expert?
Yeah.
This man, is this man offering me something nice? No, he's threatening you. You know, your human instincts know what another person. But Rashford there, Jim. What about that performance?
Yeah, really, really good. And Amorim still said there's more to come from him. So actually, perhaps what he's been lacking is someone sort of challenging him in a way that shows him they believe in him. Yeah. Right? I mean, Ten Hag's manner was so frosty and confusing that I think it was clearly very difficult for the players to be inspired by it and to feel like they were actually moving in any particular direction. Amorim has very obviously got a bit more kind of positivity about him, and Rashford is responding really well already. And I mean, look at the way he celebrated his first goal, the way he sprints over the knee slide. I mean, that kind of exuberance we've not seen from him for a while. And it was such a shame that the defender got the touch on that because that looked like it was going to be piled into the bottom corner. Yeah.
And if it had done, that would have been a sensational goal. Catches it kind of almost like on the half volley, but the fact is it goes in.
He'll take it, yeah.
He will take it. And in his second goal, does the old celebration where he's pointing to his head and all that. He looks like he's back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because we worried and thought, have we seen the best of Marcus Rashford? Well, I'd like to think not. I'd like to think that he may well try and stake a claim and get back in the England squad because that's what it's all about.
Why worry about moving to another club? Why trying to look for a move that's going to improve your form at another club when you've got a new manager turning up every 5 minutes at Manchester United? So it's fine.
There you go.
Just stick around long enough.
Hang on for a bit. I mean, but there might be something in that. Maybe some of those players, they are only human beings, Peter. We've all worked for some difficult bosses before, and that's clearly. I mean, even in the post-match interviews and the press conferences, Amorim, there's so much more going on there. I mean, Ten Hag, we know what happened there.
Do you think that Man United will go for their long-standing target, Branthwaite? Do you think they'll sort of go?
What after that performance?
Yeah, after that performance.
What do you think, Peter?
I'm going to say all interest has ceased at this point in time.
Well, he knows how to get the crowd up for it at Old Trafford. I would spin it that way.
He knows how to get the ball in the net.
The very highly rated Jared Branthwaite didn't have the best afternoon, bless him, but he's a quality player. And
is he? I'm joking. I'm just messing around, Marcus.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, fine.
You know, social media are really good at picking up on subtle jokes, aren't they?
I don't open Twitter anymore. I'm not on anything else, so don't worry about it.
Fair enough. Well, so Rashford, was obviously a real plus, but Xerxes as well, and his confidence will have been boosted after that.
Yeah, I think he's needed a performance like this as well, hasn't he? Because he's scored a few goals and he's had a couple of moments, but generally people have starting to get on his back a little bit. Maybe people are a little bit unsure of what he's bringing to the team, but he looked really assured, really confident. 2 good finishes, and that's all it can take sometimes, isn't it, for a player to start feeling at home?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go and score kind of 20 odd goals or anything this season, but that's not what the point we're making here. Is that you want your forwards in particular to be high on confidence, and with Højlund scoring last week against Bodo Glimt, his confidence is up a bit. You've got different options there.
I mean, Rashford played wide again, didn't he? Whereas he was central the other day. So
yeah, I just annoyingly
people talked about where he was playing. It was the biggest issue, wasn't it, and his injuries and stuff. But maybe it's just having an arm around the shoulder and going, "You'll be fine wherever you play because you're a good player."
Yeah, it could well be just that, Peter. Bad result for Everton, though. I mean, my goodness, those goals were sloppy. And
I think people have said about this match, they were pretty good for certain periods of time, but it's just the only saving grace for Everton is that they're quite good at last gasp sort of tackles, and their keeper's quite good at sort of reaction saves later on, but. They're in real trouble now, and they've not got these kind of points deductions to kind of galvanise the side and kind of us versus them kind of.
They need another. Let's do something stupid in the January transfer window. I mean, did we just sign £100 million player?
I mean, their squad is turgid compared to teams around them in the league, and I do feel for Dyche in that respect, but 15 times in the history Everton have been pumped 4-0 and Dyche has 4 of them. He owns nearly a third of those kind of absolute shellackings.
Sure.
He stopped talking about the XG. He's now relying on talking about the problems that were at the club inherently before him. And it's like, that's a long time ago. You've had a couple of pre-seasons now, and you're just producing the same result every single time. I think they're awful.
Yeah, so what you feel.
You really hated that game. It's really stayed with you. You could have been doing anything else that afternoon.
Frank paid a lot of money for this thing. He quit to Park. Fuck off.
The thing is, though, for Everton, I mean, you're right to say this, that it's really from them and downwards, that's where the 3 teams you would think would be relegated. West Ham, they've just got a little bit too much, even though it's been poor. Bournemouth are not going to get relegated. Villa are not. Newcastle, Fulham, yeah. I mean, so that it surely.
But Wolves are the only one who you'd probably say
Wolves
could climb out of that.
And we'll talk about them in a minute. Palace, of course, Ipswich, Southampton, Leicester. Well. Will Ruud van Nistelrooy, will they get the bounce from him? Will he do something? I think Everton have got to be worried here. And they've got to sort this out.
Well, it's the goal scoring, isn't it? Or the complete lack.
Well, there's goal scoring, but also, like Dyche's teams, they're organised, they're all the cliches. Well, you've got, I think, a quality keeper. You've got 2 decent centre-halves. When you put a defensive performance like that, it's like, I know losing 4-0 to a rejuvenated Manchester United side can happen, but I'd be concerned. I think Everton fans are always concerned. This is just yet another one, I suppose.
How would they be concerned in their new stadium?
yeah, maybe.
The new home of concern.
Yes, that's true. Well, Everton do have Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City this month. And we do need to put Man City still in there.
But also, they've scored 10 goals all season. I know I'm hammering this point home a lot, but it's like they have to fix that.
It's piss poor. It's joint worse with Southampton, for crying out loud. Oh dear, poor old Everton. Right, coming up after this, we find out about Gary O'Neil's strange habit.
Oh.
Now then, everybody, Wolverhampton Wanderers, obviously last time we spoke about them was a 4-1 victory at Craven Cottage. Well, now they've lost 4-2 at home to Bournemouth, and it was a history-making game because Bournemouth's Justin Kluivert became the first player in 67 years to score a hat-trick of penalties in the English top flight. I was surprised that back in those days, it was, there was one in the 50s, I forget, it was a long time ago, and I thought, back in those days, to give away a penalty, you really had to do something. And I thought, what on earth happened?
Surprised they had enough legs in the side
to subs as well
to put them away.
I was quite impressed and bewildered at that. I need to, if there is footage exists of these games, we need to find it.
Yeah, those penalties were often given by local bobbies who happen to be passing as well.
Yeah, exactly. You could go to jail, or we could just give a penalty. All right, we'll go for the penalty. Yeah. So goodness knows what happened there. I liked Iriola saying when Kluivert steps up to take the third, he was thinking, should he be taking this? Will the goalkeeper have figured this out? The fact is that Jose Sá phoned in that last
He
one.
had a hell of an afternoon, didn't he?
He did an awful afternoon, yeah. And but he just slotted it in. I mean, obviously with penalties, if you score a hat trick of penalties and you put them in different places, is that a perfect penalty hat trick?
It's a good question. Do you have to do one with your head?
Yeah, I think
penalty hat trick.
I mean, it would be incredibly impressive if you could do that. But yeah, so the first one just calmly, waits for the keeper to move, slots in. Second one, bit of pace into the corner, and the third one, he really waited for Sá to move, which he did.
It reminds me of the radically different dances that his dad did in the 3 nightclubs he would visit every night on the Newcastle area.
Oh right,
He'll do a different dance at every one.
Is that right?
Because the guy just loved nightclubs.
3 nightclubs in a night.
Yeah, playing football, loved Newcastle nightclubs.
Yeah, but if though you have deals of free drink and an entry of every
It's a good
club,
point, actually. Yeah, you only get them on entry, don't you? You pay your 20 quid and you get a free drink token.
Look, we've all been there.
We've all been there.
Although we weren't all there getting paid tens of thousands of pounds a week.
Very good point.
So either or though.
Amsterdam was good. Barcelona was pretty good. Newcastle was where the nightlife was. That's where it really started to shine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I mean, incredible stuff from Kluivert. I mean, people say you should always, obviously it's in your favour for penalties, but I think if you put 3 away.
It's almost like it's almost
impressive.
like kind of like roulette. Well, I can't win again. Like you know what I mean? You put 2 in, you're like, I can't do a third.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kylian Mbappe, including the penalty shootout, scored all 3 in the World Cup final, which was impressive at the highest stage. But I'd like to think this is equally up there in its own way. But Bournemouth were causing that backline of problems all day. I mean, Ivan Nilsson as well, didn't score, but my goodness, nuisance, absolute nuisance.
I think they spotted that Sá wasn't comfortable with being pressed as heavily. So essentially, 2 of those penalties came from that. Obviously, the first one, he kicks Evan Nilsson from behind. And it's not like Evan Nilsson's engineered that. But I think what he's seen once that happened, it's like, if I get tight on him, he is not comfortable with it. And he might give away another penalty, which he absolutely did. He looks a bit like Sergio Ramos, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Jose Sá. But
maybe it is
with
Sergio
less
Ramos.
effective chaos.
With that kind of fouling. Yeah, did a little bit of a swap. And Sá as well. I mean, there was quite intense scenes at half time with him and a Wolves fan or two. They had to be pulled away. They were arguing with each other. Not the kind of thing we want to see.
The West Ham fans were fighting, weren't they? There was a scuffle in between West Ham fans.
It's not what we want to see. What we want fans doing, if you want to try and gain an advantage for your team, is pull your top up and pull your trousers down, which is what we did see a Wolves fan doing, desperately trying to help his team. That man should be commended.
What was the help exactly? What was the kind of?
I mean, he was just trying to put off Kluivert.
Oh, so he didn't have his junk out. It was just his pants.
Just his pants.
It wasn't like that England fan in Euro 2012 trying to put off the Italian.
No helicopters.
There was a
That's
penis
a real
wasn't
shame.
seen. Although having said all that, I think actually we're relieved that one wasn't.
Yeah, keep it in your trousers.
Keep it in the pants, at least.
Yeah,
you can show your pants. You can show the contour, and if they're particularly tight, you can tell whether someone's had the op or not. And I think that that's where it should stay.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Safely where it isn't a crime.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just a thin piece of cloth away from it.
A hint of pubes. That's all we're getting, thank you.
Just a hint.
Just a hint.
Yeah, okay.
Just a sniff.
Was it me? Was he wearing Y front?
I think he was, old school.
Nice
what colour were they? I missed this guy completely.
In my mind, they were blue.
Blue.
Were they blue?
I was thinking maroon, but it could be, is the dress blue? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? One of those.
This isn't what he wanted, was it?
You've got to be confident that there's no stains. That's what you know what I mean. Because you got the low, and sometimes things happen.
That's why I wear darker colours then.
Exactly.
But he didn't manage to put off Clive. I don't think anybody could, of course. I want to talk about the other Bournemouth goal.
Kirkes.
Goal of the month for me.
Oh, wow.
Absolute beauty.
An absolute hawser.
And that is the type of football that this Bournemouth side can play under Iriola. The move to create that goal, the overlapping run, and the emphatic finish. Jim, poetry in motion.
Yeah, it was, and that fluidity is what Bournemouth are becoming known for, isn't it? They not only do they press really, really well, but their passing game is really, really strong. It must be so much fun down there at the moment.
Well, it is. I mean, and with that, when you're talking about the pressing and so on, they went hunting in packs. You can see they knew Wolves were there for the taking, and they were so effective. I understand Wolves made errors which helped Bournemouth, but I just think Bournemouth would have probably ran out winners despite those errors. You know, I mean, I know Strand Larsen did his best, scoring a couple of goals, which that was a positive for Wolves at least.
Yeah, actually, he's kind of quietly coming out of the radar, so to speak. Maybe.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's having a really good season in what is a difficult time for them.
Yeah, but it's interesting where Bournemouth find themselves. I mean, they're 13th on 18 points, but they're just a point behind Villa, Newcastle, Fulham, Man United. I mean, a win for them, depending on if this was possible with the next round of fixtures. But I'm sort of labouring to say that they're just 2 points off Tottenham in 7th. So perhaps a win could they would shoot up the table if as I say, other results went their way. It is an interesting pack that because five points separates 4th from 13th. I mean, you could extrapolate that out and say 7 points separates 2nd and Bournemouth in 13th as well. So it is packed in there. It's a shame Liverpool are not playing their part, making this a bit more exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Join in.
If it weren't for Liverpool, then maybe this is actually a saving grace for a lot of people. I would be saying that there's loads of teams on the verge of a title.
The teams close at the top seem to be not enjoying great form. The teams at the bottom certainly don't seem to be enjoying great form, but the ones in the middle are having a lovely old time. But then some of them aren't as well. What's going on?
What is going on?
It's a great game, isn't it?
So we should
I'm going to keep watching it.
It's a lovely old game.
Abandon the league table. It's so silly.
It is.
It's not representative.
No, we need some other system to devise how we can tell who are the best sides. Now, Gary O'Neil, is he back under pressure, gentlemen?
Yeah, feels like it. It's the manner of this, isn't it?
Do you think
fans getting angry?
I mean, they had 4 games unbeaten. Obviously, that impressive win at Fulham.
I don't know. One of the penalties was like the keeper kicking it out and just being a bit slow about it. I mean, that can happen to anyone. I don't think they were.
But it happened to them.
It did happen
and this
to
is
them.
the problem, isn't it?
True,
yes, exactly. Yeah.
It keeps happening to them.
Wolves, as we say, down there in the table, that we're expecting them to step it up, and they have a little bit. Obviously, the very difficult first period of the season, so they have picked up a few points, but they're going to have to pick up more, and they need to capitalise on the fact that that Everton aren't pulling up trees. That Palace.
But the thing is, you look at that game because obviously Everton and Wolves play each other soon. And that just to me screams Wolves' own goals at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like Everton probably aren't going to score because they're not very good at that, but we'll shoot ourselves in the foot, don't you worry.
Yeah.
Coming off the back of the Fulham match, Gomez was really good, and you thought he was going to kick on a little bit, but he was a bit pants in this match.
Yeah, well, I mean,
pun intended.
Yeah. Gary O'Neil, despite being under pressure, has said. He was talking on, I think it was on the radio, and for some reason he revealed that he has about 20 cups of tea a day.
That feels like a nervous thing to me.
Yeah. That seems like a lot of caffeine. I don't care how old you are. That's too many cups of tea.
I think that he's just picked a high number. I think he meant to say I've had a lot, and he's about 20.
I mean, how much milk is that?
That's good. That's a full pint, I think.
At least.
If he was drinking it like Luke drinks his, I mean, that's a full cow. One would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, Luke's essentially having a baby Chino, though. But I am concerned. Although I think he's probably just massively exaggerated, because it reminded me of a certain former footballer who said once. was talking to someone and said, "No, I mean, to be honest with you, like nowadays the drinking culture isn't what it was, and I don't really drink, to be honest, certainly not during the week. But if I do go out, then I probably would have about 18 to 20 pints." I will not name that footballer for obvious reasons. But do you know what I mean? Like, you're not having that many pints.
Yeah.
Metabolism-wise, you could probably see him off, though, couldn't you? If you're a footballer. I don't know. They operate at different levels.
The mind boggles.
I think there should be a power drinking league. A five-a-side side squad.
Yeah, okay, with Mike Ashley involved somehow. Get him back in there. Right then, gentlemen, let us finish with the final of the Copa Libertadore. We're to South America. Incredible scenes as Botafogo beat their Brazilian compatriots Atlético Mineiro 3-1. Botafogo won the Libertadores for the first time in their 123-year history, which seems incredible because they're a storied club and they're a big name. But then I suppose you could say that about a lot of sides in their respective leagues and so on. I mean, look, Fulham have never won the Champions League.
Indeed.
So I don't think they've been in it. But yes, it was a fabulous victory for them. And even more so because they had a man sent off after about 60 seconds.
It was 30 seconds.
Was it 30?
And if you've seen the footage of it, it is a red. There is no doubt about it. He essentially knocks a player out with a high boot. It's really bad.
I mean, I know Fabianski punched one of the Arsenal players in the head. This was very much. This is a stud to the side.
This
of the
was
head.
Mortal Kombat.
This was incredible. I mean, I know that the Atletico Mineiro player kind of goes slightly lower to head the ball, but that's his right. You can't stud him in the head. So sent off straight away. But for them to run out 3-1 winners is incredible. Some familiar faces in there, which is always good to see. Ulke, as they call him there, playing for the side who finished second, of course. Former Man United man Alex Telles scored a penalty for Botafogo, which was quite nice. And what about the man who came on? Well, a number of players came on for Botafogo. Former Napoli and Everton midfielder Alan came on as well. It's nice to see.
Yeah.
Nice to see.
And what an astonishing performance to be down to 10 men after 30 seconds and run out 3-1 winners in normal time.
I know.
Amazing stuff.
Well, it was amazing stuff. When you've got a goalkeeper who's simply called John, you've always
It's
got a chance.
intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't even need to be Big John, he's just John. It's quite a common thing in South America, isn't it?
It is.
It's just the first name. But when Shakhtar came to the Emirates recently, they subbed on a player called Kevin and everyone just laughed.
Yeah, it's enjoyable for the English-speaking world.
Yeah.
What did you think of the trophy, the Copa Libertadores trophy being presented by Novak Djokovic before kickoff? This was played in Buenos Aires, by the way, in River Plate Stadium. He's obviously down in that part of the world. I mean, it's quite a high-profile sportsman.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? I am more of an Andre Agassi guy.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, it's interesting you chose Agassi.
And it is one or the other, in my mind.
Can you not have that? Who's the one who fathered a child in a cupboard and then went to prison?
Oh, Boris Becker.
Boris Becker.
You're more
There
of
we
a
go.
Boris Becker type of
More of a Boris Becker kind of guy. It's the way I live my life.
Yeah.
What is it with that name?
Pro-vaccine, but love a cupboard.
And I'll throw in a name. Where was Tim Edman?
Man.
Not invited.
I told you recently, didn't I, that I'm very sure I saw Greg Gruzetsky in my local shopping centre recently.
I don't know if you did tell me this huge news.
Yeah, get Greg out
Get
of Buenos
Greg out
Aires.
there. He's so charismatic. I watched when they released the Wii. Do you remember the Wii for the first time?
Oh, yeah.
And it was all about like Wii tennis and playing the old sports and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They took everyone down to like an arena, and on stage, Tim Henman and Greg Gruzetsky just knocked a few balls against each other.
Love it.
It was so bizarre. And they went, welcome. And then the whole stage sort of opened, and then we all got to go on the Wii for the first time.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
That's cool.
Best of British.
Yeah, best of British.
It's very much the Owen Hargreaves of tennis, isn't it, Greg Rosetsky?
Or the Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the good news really, though, for Botafogo is, fine, you can win a trophy, 123-year history. That's all very well. But they've earned a spot in FIFA's Club World Cup in the US next summer.
Yes!
We're going to get to see them. We're going to get to see them.
If they get a TV deal.
If the TV deal extends to this country.